UConn is 3-0, play NC State tomorrow. Man, life is good. What? NC State player has COVID? Ugh, at least it's not UConn. UConn? Tested positive for...
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
I'm so hot, the hell and I yes around.
Welcome to episode 5 of the UConn Basketball Show. Unfortunately, UConn men's basketball program is currently shut down due to a positive COVID test within the program. In today's episode, we'll be discussing what that means for UConn's schedule going forward, as well as recapping the Huskies' win over USC last week. Hit that subscribe button. Let's get into it. The Huskies traveled to Mohegan Sun, aka Bubbleville, last week, where they beat USC 61-58. By no means was it the prettiest win for the Huskies, but a win is a win, and especially against a Power 5 team like the Trojans, who were ranked 39 at KenPom. This one felt big. What were your initial thoughts, Noam?
Yeah, my initial thoughts are just that this is a game that UConn does not win last year. They only scored 3 points over the final 8:58. They had a lot of foul trouble. They had a game where Sanogo, Pauly, and Brandon Adams didn't play well, and yet they still managed to win the game against a USC team that will make the NCAA tournament if it is played in March. Evan Mobley is a top 10 player in the country. He's going to be a lottery pick, and the Huskies had a great game plan to shut him down, or at least mitigate his impact, and just pull out a win. And now 8 straight wins dating back to last season, their longest win streak since 2014 when they won the national championship. That was 6 games and then 3 games to open up the 2014-15 campaign. So, you got to like what this UConn team is doing, even through all the trials and tribulations of the COVID pandemic.
Yeah, that was my biggest takeaway, was last season UConn had so many close games that they just lost. It was like they were missing that one piece. They couldn't close it out. So to see him close out a close one against a good opponent, that was huge for me. I looked at it as a big sign of growth. I find the fact that this team is 3-0 after 3 ugly games pretty good success. I'm excited to see when this team starts playing better on offense when they get more reps. But 3 games, 3 wins, I can't complain. Who was your player of the game?
Yeah, actually, real quick, you talked about the offense. They obviously struggled a little bit, but USC is a really good team defensively. They had a bad game in their first opener, but since then they've just been solid defensively. So I don't worry too much about the offense. I think that especially as the season goes on and guys get a little more comfortable in their roles, that offense will come together. But as for my player of the game, the easy choice, I'll leave to you, I think, but a little under the radar was Isaiah Whaley. 36 minutes. For a big man, that's a lot of playing time. And he didn't look tired at all. He never looks tired. He had 10 points, 5 blocks, 5 rebounds, and 4 of those rebounds were offensive. He's averaging 3.7 blocks per game. And post-game, Hurley said that Isaiah is such an underrated player. I'm not sure I've coached a guy with as much competitiveness. He's a heck of a forward, that guy. Isaiah Whaley, just an absolute rock for this UConn team. I don't think they win the game without him against the Trojans.
I appreciate you leaving me the easy one because Josh Carlton had a huge game. He stepped up, he got the opportunity, and he made the most of it. These seniors, I'm really impressed by their leadership. Every time they come on the court, like Whaley, like you said, Pauly, they make an impact, it feels like. And you can tell they're fighting for minutes that are tough to come by, but they want it bad, and it's showing.
A big thing about the seniors, too, is they're unselfish. Like, Pauly hasn't been playing great, but you don't see him pouting around, complaining, nothing. When he comes in, he's going to play hard, and he hasn't played great yet. I think he's still a step behind from the knee injury. But Carlton, post-game Bouknight said, look, Carlton was mad that he wasn't playing, but he didn't turn that into frustration or, lack of trying. But what he did was he took advantage of his minutes and he played his butt off. So, great game for Josh. It was great to see him emerge and be, a reliable player for a big game, because Adama Sanogo is going to have these games where he looks raw and he commits a couple early fouls, and you're going to need some big guy to step in, and Josh Carlton played the role perfectly.
The depth really showed that game. What would you go for the play of the game?
Play of the game, it was a sequence, actually. Isaiah Whaley gets his hand in a passing lane, The guard got beat, and Whaley just deflected the backdoor pass, runs the floor, shot goes up, bounces off the rim. Whaley elevates, put-back jam, one-handed right over Mobley. It was a beautiful play. Kind of showed off Whaley's athleticism, which we don't necessarily see too much just in the flesh, and his hands. I mean, that was a one-handed putback. He sort of hung on the rim, flexed on him a little. Great play, Isaiah Whaley.
That was going to be my pick, but since he took it, I'm going to take the play that I'm not even sure if he meant to do it on purpose, but Tyrese Martin's layup. That was unbelievable. He had a good game as well.
He did have a good game. I have no idea how that shot went in, but Tyrese is a really good player. I think he's a lot better than a lot of us expected.
I agree. But UConn's matchup against NC State was canceled Saturday due to a positive test in the Wolfpack's program. I was really looking forward to the matchup against NC State, but I was initially relieved it wasn't UConn with a positive test. But then Sunday afternoon, saw the news, pretty much every college basketball program's worst nightmare right now. UConn tested positive for COVID within the program and had to shut down all team activities immediately, indefinitely. So what were your opinions on that? It sucks, but what are you going to do?
Yeah, I mean, Hurley kind of talked about the roller coaster of the week. You go into Mohegan expecting to play 3 games. It turns into 2. NC State cancels, it turns into 1, and it's like, okay, what are you going to do? Like, at least you salvaged a win against a good USC team. Now it's time to, prepare, get ready for St. John's, and then boom, you get hit with the awful news of another positive. And first and foremost, like, you got to think of the player who tested positive and hope that they're, first of all, asymptomatic, and if they're symptomatic, like, they're okay, there's no long-term health effects. I think sometimes people lose track of the fact that these are just kids, they're the same age as you and I. They're in an experience where they can't go home for Thanksgiving. They won't be able to go home over winter break for Christmas or whatever holidays they're celebrating. And when they're on campus, they're isolated. They're living in their apartment, probably with 1 or 2 roommates, and that's it. They're not allowed to interact with anybody else. And so first and foremost, you got to worry about these players' mental health. And I think that's just something important to keep in mind as we keep running into these roadblocks of the season. But in terms of basketball, it's disappointing. I think everybody was ready for that NC State game. You come off USC win, you're 3-0, you're going to play a tough NC State team, and then boom, it's Big East play after that, and now we don't even know when the Huskies are going to play next. We know it's not going to be Friday against St. John's. We know it's not going to be Sunday against Georgetown, so hopefully maybe next Thursday at Providence. We'll see, though. It'll be tough. They're going to have to restart yet again with practice, and we know how tough it was those first few days after the first shutdown, and Hurley talks about it. You got to build these players up somehow. You can't just rush them straight from nothing into a Big East game. So it'll be interesting to see what happens, and I'm sure that, we're not past all the news. There's going to be lots more news before the Huskies hit the floor again.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. And, obviously the most important thing right now is the players' health and safety. That's the first concern. Hopefully, we get basketball soon back, but right now, we've got to put the athletes first. And hopefully we'll be back next week with more news. Thank you for coming on, Noam.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. Hopefully next week we get some games to talk about.
Absolutely. Go Huskies.
More pressure. Mark inside. That wouldn't go, but the follow there from Whaley. Just felt like he hung there for a while. Just like he had an arm on someone's shoulder. Maybe he did.